I'm joined in studio by Damien O'Reilly. Damien is a lecturer in TU Dublin in retail management, isn't that right?
And good morning, Eoin.
Good morning, and thanks very much for coming in. And it is a Saturday, guys, so I really appreciate Damien giving up his time this morning. What we're going to talk to you about today, Damien, really is kind of tricks of the trade when it comes to retailers and how they get more money out of your pocket. And I'd like to start, if you don't mind. What are the strategies and kind of rules that the retailer use when it comes to pricing?
Well, Eoin, pricing is one of two strategies in retail. Basically, it's high-low, as they call it, or EDLP, which is everyday low pricing. Now, very few companies do EDLP, everyday low pricing, because it's really the realm of the discounters, or in fashion, the likes of Primark. And high-low it's at a price and it's at a discount. Now, just to put this into context, is that, like, if you go into your local supermarket, I don't know if you know how many items, if you put one of every item in your on the shelf in your basket, how many items you'd have if you went to the likes of SuperValu, Dunnes or Tesco's.
Probably thousands, would you?
Well, have a guess.
I could imagine. I'm going to make this up completely, but I wouldn't be surprised if you don't have any change from 10,000 different items.
15,000 plus.
Wow.
Items, yeah. So, and the thing is then that out of that, we tend to buy, on average, a household will buy 200 to 300 items per annum.
Right.
So that's all they're buying out of that. And out of that, there's what they call known value items, things that you know the price of, things that you buy regularly, like maybe pet food, bread, milk, and whatever. So there's very few items that you actually know the price of. So basically, we might know these known value items might be around 30 to 40 items. So basically, the rest of the 15,000 items that you have, we don't know the price of them, and we're tempted into buying. And we're not as concerned about the price as we might be, because it's very hard to do comparisons.
So what you're saying to me is we have about 30 or 40 items that we kind of have a rough idea how much they cost, right? And the retailer decides, you know what, we're going to keep that price consistent because the people know what it is and how much it costs.
Absolutely.
And then they try and get the rest of the other 15,000 items into your basket because you're not really clued in what the price is, and therefore you're not going to question the price as much.
Absolutely. Like, give you an example. I was in the supermarket, our local supermarket in Ballantyre, and I went in and I saw the cheese counter, and I bought 3 items that cheese, 3 pieces of cheese. It said special offer on it. I went home with the messages and took them out, put them in the fridge. And my wife said to me, says, why did you buy those cheeses? I said, they're on special offer. And she says, what's a special offer? And I said, I've no idea. It said special offer on them, and I just bought them. So there's a tactic. And then they get you when you go in the door, because you haven't spent any money. So there's no pain involved as yet. So
just explain that to me. So they'll put the special offers to the front because you haven't...
The cheeses, the high value items, like that could have been reduced by 1 cent for all I know, but it said special offer on it. So basically, I bought it, and it's there. It's there when I go in the door, and I haven't spent any money, so I've no pain or no loss associated with it. Whereas if it's at the end of my journey, I might say, God, I've already spent €50. I'm not going to buy the cheese that are on special offer. But when they're there at the beginning, I tend to buy them.
And that's interesting, actually, when you think about the pain that you've built up as you walk around the store. You know, when you can go into these shops and you can scan as you're shopping, and it's showing you a total on it. Is that not a negative thing then? Do people not look down and say, geez, I've spent 107 quid so far, and I'm going to be less...
Well, one of the interesting things is, like, the likes of Dunnes stores who will do 10 off 50.
Yes.
There's another, because you have to spend the 50 to get the money off. So it makes you spend. But there's another one of the other retailers. They give you 7 off 35.
Right.
Do you want to do those calculations? You're an accountant. What's 7 off 35 as percentage?
Is 20%.
20%. It's the same. But you know what? It's really difficult to calculate. It doesn't come like 10 off 50. Is easy.
Yes.
And Dunnes have done that consistently over the years. And, it doesn't mean that the prices are cheaper, because they're giving away their margin. Why not just reduce the prices by 20%?
Yeah.
But they don't. They give you 10 off 50. So the prices have to be higher to give you that discount. Is it true
that they can afford that? And I very rarely go into specifics, but my understanding of Dunnes stores are able to do that because they have drapery as well. They can sell you clothes at the same time. The profit margin might be slightly better. No. Okay. I'm delighted that you told me I'm wrong.
Well, no, they do make money, obviously, on the drapery, but they don't break out the figures, so it's very difficult to say what their margin is. But basically, a typical grocery store, supermarket will have a margin of 20 to 25%.
Right.
So basically, Dunnes would appear to be giving away their margin, but basically, the prices are probably slightly higher. Plus, they're selling more national brands rather than own brands.
Okay.
So it's a lot more difficult to do price comparisons with Dunnes products.
Okay, so actually, when I just kind of summarise what we've talked about so far, because there's a lot to take in there, and it's actually really interesting stuff. When you go into a shop first, they'll put the high value stuff in front of you because you haven't had the pain yet, or you haven't been totting it up in your head.
Sustainable.
That's why the bread is always at the front.
Yeah.
That's why the cheese is always at the front. And
The fresh category counts for 40% of their sales.
I remember Super Quinn in Blanchardstown. I worked in it. All my brothers, actually, two of my brothers worked in it. One of my brothers I don't think, but we all went through the ranks there at one stage. Yeah. And I always remember, and this is back in the 80s, I'll never forget every time you walk through the car park, the smell of the fresh bread being pumped out into you. Is that a tactic that's still used?
Absolutely. You go down to the swimwear, the holiday wear in Brown Thomas, and they're pumping out the smell of coconut.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Or if you go to the cinema, they pump out the smell of popcorn.
Yes.
So, they use those. If you go to B&Q, for example, about now, March, so freshly cut grass. Smell of freshly cut grass.
And are they literally pumping it into the store?
Well, they do, yeah. And some of them do. Certainly, some of the bigger retailers will do that.
Yeah. We had a conference the other day. We did a team meeting the other day in the Westbury, and I love the Westbury, and I'm always in and out of it. But walking in, they've a distinct smell in there as well. Yeah. And it's funny when you walk in, you get that reminder. This is what the Westbury feels like,
and it has that luxury sense of it as well. So you expect to pay more when you go into the store.
Yes, yeah,
that's the expectation is there.
So, and then there's always the standard stuff. Like what I didn't realise it worked the opposite way round. But there's always the standard stuff that the milk and the bread is at the back of the shop to make you walk through the shop and buy all the other stuff first, because you're going in for bread and milk. You have to pass by everything else. But now what you've just taught me is that the high value stuff is at the front of the shop.
Yeah, the high margin.
Yes.
So it's very difficult to do price comparisons. Like if you take the cheese that I bought, they're all cut into different sizes. So you buy by the price. That's $3.49. That's $4.45. Just two pieces of the same type of cheese, but they're all, you buy by the price. And I don't know if you know how much a kilogram is of brie, for example. We don't. We just say that's £3.
Yes,
and we buy it.
Yeah,
and it looks like good value. So, and it says special offer on it.
And they do some funny stuff with the numbers as well, the physical numbers, whether it's restaurants or retailers. Tell me about what they can do with numbers.
For example, in a restaurant, what they want to do is to get you to buy to make the menus into a price list is basically what they're doing. So people read through the menus and choose the cheapest item possibly, instead of choosing what they want. So they change their mind based on the price. So what what good retailers or good restaurant owners will do is they take away the dots that lead you from the food to the price.
Right.
So they take those dots away, and instead of making something $18.50 or $18.99, they just make it $19 and just round figures. Plus, they take away those leader dots that lead you to the price. So basically, to minimise the price sensitivity, they get rid of the leader dots and get rid of the euro sign as well. So take that pain away, so that you're not concentrating on it. So pay attention to the food and not the price is what they want you to do.
Mm. That's interesting. So they're pulling the leader line so your eye doesn't follow across from the item of food across to the number. But then they're taking the euro symbol to kind of desensitize us from that as well. Yeah. And it's just left with a number. Yeah. They're probably not going to put 0.99 in. They're just going to put 19 in full stop, and that's it.
Yeah.
And
so you're concentrating on the food and what you want rather than the price.
Wow.
And then obviously you add on. So basically, a lot of the restaurants nowadays will have if you want to get veg with it, it's always extra.
You had a challenge for our listeners that we were talking about beforehand about numbers. And you were talking me through that.
Just like to put something, like for example, I'm going to write down a number here, and it's just going to be it's a 3-digit number, 745. Then I want you, your listeners, just while they're there listening here, is to write down any number between 1 and 10,000.
Okay.
So they've done that now, and most people who write down a 3-digit number will have written down a 3-digit number because I've put that into your mind.
So
I've written down, I've anchored it actually, and that's what the retailers tend to do.
How do retailers use that?
Well, they'll do things like they'll put in like what they call bait and switch. So basically, they give you the bait of saying, here's a TV on offer for 150, 200 euros, a 32-inch TV. You go in to buy it, and it's surrounded by 60-inch TVs, 80-inch TVs, and you know what? They get you in with the bait, and then they change you, and they upsell you.
And when you say bait and switch, does that mean before the store opens in the morning, like would it be as blatant as, right, guys and girls, that TV's on offer, there's going to be people coming in today looking for that, but when they come in, try and upsell them to this one?
They'll always try and upsell you.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's
And is
what they
that a
want to do.
case of there's a famous retailer, when it's gone, right? And is
Yeah.
it a case of that they actually have very few TVs at the 150 quid, 200 mark, or
well,
are they happy to sell some of them too?
There's legislation surrounding that, and basically you can't have false advertising. So if there's only 10 of these on offer, they should say at the bottom of the advertisement there's only 10 of these on offer.
Right.
But they tend not to do that. But like retailers in general are very good. I went into a well-known department store a couple of years ago, and it had a special offer. It was advertised in the Irish Times, the supplement. And I said, I'll go in and get that. It was for a kettle, a toaster, and you got a free coffee maker with it. So I said, Grant, we needed a kettle anyway. So I said, I'll go in and buy that. And the offer was gone when I got in to this large department store in Grafton Street.
Yeah,
not mentioning any names.
Yes, yeah.
And I said to the guy there, I said, where's the offer? And he said, it's sold out. And I said, by 11 o'clock in the morning. And he said, yeah. And then I looked around the store, and I saw the 3 items there on the shelf. And I said, but the items are still available. And he said, but they're not on special offer. There was only 10 on special offer. And I said, that's false advertising to him. And I said, I'm going to ring Joe Duffy. And so I got the offer.
You got the offer. Yeah. It's interesting. I had a very similar.
I wasn't going to ring Joe Duffy, by the way.
No,
okay.
it's always a great threat. And there was another trick that they used that you were describing to me beforehand. Tell me about buying frozen peas.
Yeah, for example, like making price comparisons when you're at the shelf. So the frozen food is a good example. Is that 1 kilo of bird's eye peas, for example, might be $2.50 or whatever, and you'll see there the equivalent own brand is $1.99. You say that's a big difference, 51 cents of a difference. But what you mightn't realise is that those packs are 900 grams and not a kilo.
So there's less food.
Yeah, there's less in it. Or you might see other products which they, some of the honey products, they put an indentation in the bottom, so they're reducing the volume.
Yeah. Okay, but they'll still dress them up, like the size of the packet's going to be similar size.
It looks exactly the same, but the indentation on the bottom takes away 5% of the product.
Wow, is that being done typically with just own brands, or could you have two?
Manufacturers are doing that. Well, that's partially what they call shrinkflation.
Yeah,
is that reduce the size of the product and maintain the price.
Yeah,
and that's partially because of the input costs have gone up significantly over the last number of years.
We all know that Mars bars are much smaller now than they used to be.
Yeah.
Or else we're just bigger.
Well, the guy in Australia kind of lost his job over that about 10, 15 years ago. He went on national TV and said they're doing it to reduce the obesity levels in Australia. And like...
And who was he? One of the chocolate makers, was he?
Yeah. Well, he was a supplier, yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So
to reduce.
He got caught on the hop, but it wasn't
I remember in my days, and I've mentioned her online before. Ellen O'Rourke was my business studies teacher in school, and she allows me to tell everyone that she's now a client. We've gone full circle, but she was my business studies teacher. And Ellen, I remember learning in her class about when you're looking at the shelf, the stuff at your eye line is the most expensive stuff, or is the stuff that they really want you to buy. But you don't agree with that or the kind of research has shown it's different now, isn't it?
Yeah, eye tracking technology has increased significantly over the last 5 or 7 years. And what they'll notice is that we tend to walk with our heads with a slight tilt because we want to know where we're going. We don't want to trip over something. So, eye line is not byline. Eye line is the byline is now one shelf below that because we tend to have our heads slightly tilted.
Okay. So we're kind of looking forward and looking down, pushing the trolley, and we're looking down. So eye line is no longer byline. It was at one stage. Ellen wasn't wrong, sure, or Miss O'Rourke, I should call her, because we're talking about when she was a teacher and not a buddy. But she wasn't wrong at the time. That's just what we thought at the time, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And now eye line is no longer byline.
Well, that's what Nielsen will tell you, the research company.
Yes.
That with their technology, that they're tracking people and they tend to walk with their heads slightly tilted. So the byline is kind of one shelf below what the eye line is.
And just go back to something, the eye tracking, they're actually tracking what people's eyes are looking at as they're walking around the shop.
Yeah.
Wow. And is that very commwn, or is it? Are we getting all the research from the US or somewhere?
No, we're getting it from the UK.
UK.
Yeah, but they're doing a lot of trials with eye tracking devices now. And what stimulates you, the colours, for example, Owen, I don't know what colour milk you buy. I know it's white when it comes out of the packet, but I mean, you probably buy
red.
We buy the red milk as well. if they change the colours of the milk, we'd all be very confused because we spend very little time at the shelf, maybe 2 or 3 seconds, maybe checking the date on it, and that's about it. We don't do anything else. So we buy by that.
By the colour.
By the colour. And the same way as you're buying a tin of soup, why are you buying a tin of soup, for example? Because it's convenient, it's hot, it's nutritious, it's storable. So basically that's what I'm thinking. So what do I put next to them? Things like pot noodles. You think, why would I put pot noodles there? They should be with the noodles. But pot noodles trigger the same emotions. Like it's hot, it's convenient, it's storable, and maybe nutritious, I don't know. But I mean, they put those beside them. So then you might kind of buy something else. You say, I'll buy that for the kids. I'll put that into the cupboard. It'll always be there.
Sorry, I'm going to jump back here. So that makes sense. You kind of put the convenience stuff together and the storable stuff together.
Yeah.
But my mind is just blown there because I'm just thinking when you're saying about the red milk, like cheese and onion is red, salt and vinegar is blue.
Yeah.
But when you go to the UK, it's the other way around.
Yeah. So
and it really is confusing. And it does. Your mind just kind of goes, oh, this doesn't make any sense. Why would you have changed the colours of them?
Yeah.
So it must be quite local as well then, is it? That
Yeah, it is. But I mean, it depends on the company and depends on the size of the company and the internationalization of the company. So they want to have a consistent offering across the board. But the pricing is, other things they will use is, for example, in luxury, upmarket stores use superfluous luxury, as they call it. They charge prices that wouldn't be tolerated anywhere else. You won't see a Louis Vuitton bag on sale for $14,999. It'll be $15,000.
Yes.
You just get rid of those because otherwise it looks like it's on sale,
right?
And you don't want that to happen. So the art of luxury pricing lies in quantifying the value to the customer. If I said to you, these earrings are worth 10 grand, for example, and they're 24 karat gold, like how do I know that they're not 20 karat or whatever? So it's all about perception in the luxury end of it. So
are you telling me that if I'm a Louis Vuitton bag buyer and I see it at 15 grand, I'll value it more than I would if it was 14,999, and therefore because of the type of purchase I'm doing, I want it to be.
Well, not only that, but I mean, if you go into the store and the one that's on sale down in Brown Thomas and Louis Vuitton is 14,000 or 15 or 20,000, it puts an anchor in your mind, and you walk out with a bag worth 5,000 or 6,000. You think I got a bargain. Yeah,
because I saved 10 grand on that.
So you're putting an anchor. That's the same thing with the 3 digits that I wrote down. I'm putting something into your mind, and then you work based off that. So that's what they do in the luxury end of it.
What's the one that blows your mind when you look at how retailers have developed and changed and managed to get money out of your pocket? If you were to pick one or a couple of ones that you kind of go, that's really clever.
Things like the first that we read from left to right. So the first digit that comes into your mind is whatever you see first. So if something is 209, you're probably better off reducing that to 199. You'll sell a lot more because the 1 comes first. Even though we know 199 is €2, but basically we don't make that conscious decision. We see the 1 and that sticks in your mind. And that's the way we work. We reduce.
Is that actually? And I know we talked about heuristics a little while ago, but that's the same thing as primacy, then, is it? It's the first thing that you've read has the most impact.
Absolutely.
On you.
Yeah.
So that's why it's not just to make it not €2. It's to embed the 1 there is what they're trying to do with the 199.
Well, our mind, our minds tend to be lazy unless we make them work. So we kind of go with something that's kind of easy. So the 1 comes first. So therefore, we think about the 1 rather than the 2.
Yes.
And subconsciously, it's in your mind, even though everybody knows, but we have to stop and think and say 199 is equal to €2. And then you're saying, how do I compare that with a price that's in another supermarket or another store? So it's very difficult. And that's why the likes of, H&M and Zara, for example, they will have their own pricing strategies, but it's very difficult to compare one product with the next. On average, something, if it says $9.99, you can obviously think it's a bargain. So basically, the 99 came into existence probably in the 20s when, if you went into a department store, and you paid €20 for an overcoat, for example, and, so that there wasn't any thieving or theft by the salesperson, is that they'd make, instead of making it £20 in old money, they'd make it £19.99. And that one penny would buy you or get you to the cinema, whatever, yourself, in those old days. So it made the guy open the cash register and put the money into it, rather than just taking the money and putting it into his pocket.
Right.
So you had to have a transaction. So that's where it started, the 99s.
Right. Okay. It's interesting because I remember my brother, he had separated from his wife, and he was 39 years of age. And sorry, he had been separated a couple of years at this stage. He was 39, and he was worried that when he was on Tinder, when he turned 40, he wasn't going to be as attractive.
So he told the truth on Tinder, did he?
Yeah, he did.
God, right.
39 is more attractive than 40, apparently.
Okay.
It's a different logic.
Right. Yeah. But he's probably still 39 on
He is,
Tinder.
yeah. In his head, he's still 19.
Right. Okay. But another one is choosing prices with fewer syllables. Like, for example, in French, French 99 is 99, which is 420s. I don't know how they do this. 420s and 19. So it makes it more difficult for you to understand, because you have to work this out in your mind. So, if you were to say, for example, 2782 as a price. So they've done this on research with these two numbers, 2782. Which is 7 syllables in it. Whereas if you put a price at 2816, it's shorter. So people, phonetically, our mind doesn't have to work as hard to calculate something like that.
So it becomes more attractive to us.
Yeah. So something that's, as well as that, is something that's €25. If you put it up to €29, people think, oh, it must be reduced from 30 down to 29.
Right.
And you're making €4 extra by just increasing the price, because people don't do the price comparisons, and they're taken in by the price that
and
it's
all
at.
this research that they have, Damien, for in-store, how are they translating that to online then? Is it very different online in terms of the tricks of the trade when it comes to online?
Well, online is trying to get you to buy and trying to get you on to the next page. One of the problems with online buying and the pricing is that people drop when they have to do an extra page or something like, oh, please sign up, or your newsletter or whatever, and people don't like that. So the amount of stuff that's dropped online is quite significant. Just another good trick, if you want, is remove the comma. So if I've got something which is 1,499, 10 syllables, if I just take out the comma and I have 1499, it's 1499. Makes it sound cheaper.
Yeah.
So another one then is,
The amount of research that must go into this stuff to figure it out, like to be able to work out, how do we get more money out of people's pockets?
Well, it's all they want to do is to get you to increase the basket size. Just buy one more product and they're making money.
How long have you been in this field?
Oh, 20 years.
And has it changed much?
No, it's all about psychology, but we're much better at analysing people than we were previously 20 years ago. We're much better at reading the minds of people and understanding. But I mean, basically, if you do something like we mentioned earlier, was the pink tax, for example, is, they don't put the two razors, the blue razors beside the pink razors. There's the men's section and the women's section. So you have to go to the men's section to buy them. So they're not razors. Why aren't the razors together?
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
For various reasons. So they manage, retailers have been very good at managing you by category or by putting a discount onto certain items. Like maybe, if you go in this weekend, maybe shoes are on sale, but to get you to buy other products when you go in. Yeah. So they're very good at analysing.
Yeah. That's the bait, and what was the word you used earlier?
Bait and switch.
Bait and switch. And they're bringing you into the shop to get you one thing, but then they're selling you other stuff.
Try and sell you something else, yeah.
And actually, just because you've mentioned the pink tax, that's where I came across you, first of all, because I was presenting the Complaints Bureau and you helped us out on one of the items there, which was the pink tax. Yeah. Fascinating stuff. It was basically, for people who haven't seen the show, it was the idea that where women pay more for the same products that men buy. So a razor, for example, a woman's razor can be more expensive than a man's razor, even though they're doing the same job. Yeah. Yeah. And
absolutely.
It's just, and I won't summarize it in any way, because maybe we'll encourage people to go back and have a look at it on the player. The Complaints Bureau, you'll get it on the RT player.
It was last week.
Yeah, it was last week. This will be going out in a few weeks' time. So I think it was episode 6. I think
episode
it was episode 6.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
It was episode 6, if you want to go back and look at Damien giving his contribution on the pink tax. And that's something we all need to take responsibility for.
Yeah, another thing is, like, if you're selling to men, red signifies cheaper product, and men tend to make the decision, okay, that's cheaper, I'll buy it.
That's why I buy the red milk, is it?
Well, you buy that for the extra vitamins, right?
You do,
but another good one is gym memberships. So, do you pay $600 at the beginning of the year for your 12 months subscription, or would you prefer, if you're the retailer, if you're the gym owner, that they pay 12 installments of 50? So you might say 12 installments, like €600, I'll take that up front, thanks very much. Or 12 installments of 50 is a lot more paperwork, a lot more due diligence to be done with the consumer. But you might say, I prefer the money up front. But you know what, when it comes to month 12 and somebody's paying over their €50 and they go to the gym, so the likelihood is that they're going to use the gym and they'll subscribe the following year is much higher than if somebody pays £600 up front and stops using it in January or February.
Yes. And then it comes around the next year and you're saying, I'm not going to do it. Whereas if it's automated, it just keeps going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those subscription models work really well. And then we don't notice the difference in the price. So basically, if you want to buy a subscription to The Economist, it's always, here's the retail price, €5 for the magazine, but you can buy it for €3 online. But you know what, when the year comes around, then they say, here's the discount. You can't compare it to... it still looks like a big discount. What they do instead of increasing the price, is they reduce the discount.
Yes. Yeah.
So you get to buy, and IKEA are really good at doing things like getting you to buy or upsell. So they used to have, like maybe 20 years ago, 2 items, so good and better. And now what they did, they brought in the good, better, and best. So basically 20, 40, 60. So, people would have bought the cheaper item. 80% of people bought the cheaper item when there was 2 items on sale. Now when you bring in the third one, they buy the middle one.
Okay.
So this whole idea of buying in the middle, like I went to buy a padlock there the other day for the shed, and I went down to the local DIY shop, and they had about 20 locks, and I just kind of went for one in the middle. I said, that one's there, €40. I'm not buying that. I don't need something that good, but I don't want to buy the cheap one.
Yeah.
So I bought something in the middle.
Yeah.
So we're driven towards the middle, and retailers know that. So if you put in good, better, and best, you'll always go for the better.
Go for the better one.
Yeah. So even though the best one is only there as a ploy to kind of put an anchor in your mind, I could have spent €40 on something, but you don't.
It's fascinating stuff. It's a fascinating world that you live in, Damien. And I really appreciate you coming in to take the time out. And God love the retailers when they see you coming through the door, because they know you're onto them. But hopefully now listeners are onto them too. And we always want to support retailers. We want people to do well in business.
Absolutely. And the thing is, Owen, is that it's up to you to make the decision. Nobody's doing anything illegal here.
Yeah.
But when you're at the counter, one of the things is pay by cash. If you pay by cash, you feel the pain straight away. If you're paying by card, you don't see it for a month.
Yeah. The research that I've seen has showed us that we spend somewhere between 10 and 15% more money when we use cash. When we use a card
cards
versus cash.
Well, and the thing is,
of.
You put your card on top of the screen so you don't even see the number.
Yeah.
What you're paying.
Yeah, and it just disappears out, and then you don't deal with it. As you said, if it's a credit card, you're not dealing with it for a month, or if it's the bank account, you're probably not going to look at it for the next day or two anyway before you realise, actually, geez, I spent a few quid in my little shopping spree at the weekend on Grafton Street, and some of the best retailers in the country, given that we've mentioned them in both positive and negative. It's fascinating stuff, and what I would say is that people like you help people like me and make my job easier, because when I'm delivering out to people, it's your research that helps us out. And thank you very much for taking the time to come in, Damien.
Thanks, Owen.